Alrighty, so here we are. 1 second. In the middle of the coronavirus quarantine. Hope you guys are enjoying your time in lockdown. So, what is this coronavirus being used for? A lot of very deceptive things have come out of this. There's a lot of lies. I mean, if you could start with something like Event 201, which is a simulation, basically getting everybody's consent and seeing how far the public mind would go, and then you have the news reporting of hospitals being full, and then you have citizens going to these hospitals like, where are all the people? You have all these crazy things that are happening that are not consistent with the mainstream media. I even saw that in Italy, some of those full hospitals where the exact same clip was used to show the full hospitals in New York. It was the same building, same people inside those buildings, and they're saying, oh, this is the full hospital in Italy, this is a full hospital in New York. So the point I'm making is this: there's an agenda behind all of this, and whether the coronavirus is real, whether people are actually getting that or not, is absolutely irrelevant. There's probably something to it, but really it's irrelevant. What is relevant is that they are using this to do something, to further agenda. They will never waste a crisis. This is a crisis. They're going to use it to their advantage, okay? I think it's synthetic to some nature. Then I think there's some truth to it. I think, people are probably dying one way or the other, but regardless, they're using this to further an agenda, okay? And people are saying, the mainstream news are saying, this is the new normal, get used to it, we're not going back, just like after 9/11. The Patriot Act was established, and all these things happened, and now we're in this more secure state, right? And there's just more surveillance, there's less freedom, and we've never went back to pre-9/11 era, right? Go to an airport and prove that, right? What happens, what comes out of this, we're never going back. This is what we have allowed to happen, and what we are allowing to happen right now by staying in our houses and being afraid of this, and just allowing them to do what they will because we're afraid of this. So whatever you want to think of that, this is what I believe is they're using this coronavirus for. Okay, so let me read my premise here. Coronavirus is being used to crash the world economy, which will destroy the legal system. Out of the ashes of ruin, a new economy, a new legal system, a new world order will arise. Okay, so this is Nathan Rothschild. His family controls all the central banks. That over 95% of the countries have a central bank in their country, and that's where they get money from, and they are in debt. The population as a whole and the government is in debt to this guy's family because he loans them money at interest. So here's his quote. Keep this in the back of your mind, especially the second part throughout this presentation. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire. I control the British money supply. So he's basically saying, if you control the money, you control the law. And I'm going to show that our legal system and our financial system are intertwined, okay? And here it is. Our current financial mammon, money system, is interlinked with our legal system. Therefore, if our economy crashes, so will the legal system. They're intertwined. The two are one. Okay, so here's something from the Bible. This is what Jesus said. He said, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Cannot serve God and mammon. And I think this is more than just the pursuit of money to be rich and wealthy. I think this is a deeper understanding. And Jesus, he plays into this. He talks about this later in, I think, Matthew 10, when he's talking about the jurisdictions, and we'll get to that. But you cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon, I think he's acknowledging, like, there's a law of God and there's a law of mammon. Here, I'm about to show you the law of mammon. So how is our legal system connected with our economy? Okay, so this started in the bankruptcy. Like I said, all the central banks borrow money, or all the countries borrow money from the central banks, which is owned by that Rothschild family. And they've been doing this since the 1700s, and this is how they've become infinitely wealthy. That's why the saying is true that you give a man a gun, he'll rob a bank. You give a man a bank, he'll rob a country, right? That's what's happening. So the United States went bankrupt in 1933 and was declared so by President Roosevelt by executive orders, all these executive orders, there's 4 of them, on March 9th, 1933. Therefore, Congress confirmed the bankruptcy on June 5th, 1933, and thereupon impaired the obligations and considerations of contracts through the joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, June 5th, 1933. So we suspended the gold standard, okay? So here it is. On or before May 1st. That's a very interesting date, and it's coming up. I wonder what's going to happen on May 1st. That's also the founding date of the Illuminati, and it's the day that we really got off this gold standard, which gold was that before that paper money actually was pegged to gold. It was something that there was a limited supply. You could only have so much gold, and it took manpower. You had to send a miner out there, and you had to pay him wages, and there's actual value to this gold. But now we're no longer part of that gold standard. We are now, it's nothing. There's no standard. I mean, really the only standard, I mean, you could say it's the petrodollar, because the NAFTA agreement, North American Fair Trade Act agreement said that no country, everybody who agreed to this said that no one could buy or sell petroleum, without first, if it's not in United States dollars. So now the United States dollars has so much value internationally because it is required in order to buy petroleum. So this is really connecting all economies to one, right? I was saying that all the legal system and the economy are interlinked, but now we're kind of making intertwining all economies to being one through the petrodollar, right? Where all economies are connected through the dollar. So if the dollar were to crash, then we'd have some big problems worldwide. So in 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects, the 14th Amendment citizen, to the Federal Reserve System. Okay? So to hypothecate means to pledge a thing without delivering the possession of it to the pledgee. So I could like a title loan, or like a title loan. I could pledge my car for a loan. I could say I have a $10,000 car. It's paid off. Here's I want to sign a contract with you. I want to borrow $10,000. If I can't pay that back, I will give you my car. I've pledged my car, but I still have my car, right? I still have what's called legal title. He has I have legal title. He would have equitable title, where is if I could not pay back the loan, he could come and take legal title. Okay, so that's to hypothecate. I could hypothecate my car. I could create value. So my car's worth $10,000, but I also have $10,000 of it. It has 2 different systems of value, a credit and a debtor. And that's what happened to all of our land. So after the Revolutionary War, this land was given, the claim of this land was given by the King of England to the American people, not the American government, the American people. So everybody, all American nationals, had the right to this land, right? If you were born in America, you had right to this land, right? It's as simple as that. But then once we started borrowing from this international entity, right? The Federal Reserve is not a government entity. It's not a government entity, right? Everyone knows that. It's as federal as Federal Express. And so we started borrowing money from them as a whole, right? As a democracy, right? Out of many one. We're all together. We're all one. So we started borrowing all together as one. We all agreed to this. And therefore, we're all in debt together. And when our creditor comes after us and says, hey, you guys, you owe us some money, we had to give everything to them, including our gold, including our land. Everything has been hypothecated. We still control it, just like I'd still control my truck if I got a title loan. I'd still get to drive my truck, but if I stop paying on that, they take it back. Okay, we're foreshadowing a little bit. So that's what hypothecate means. You could read this if you don't understand. So in return for pledging all of the possessions, land, resources, etc., of the American people, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all the credit, money substitute, credit, not money. It's a money substitute. It's credit. It's based on nothing. Money has something of value and it could be extinguished. The Federal Reserve note is not extinguished. It just keeps on going and going in circulation, never disappears. Real money would be extinguished because I would give you this, you would give me gold. I no longer owe you gold. So all the credit needs, aka Federal Reserve notes, backed by nothing but by maybe the petrodollar, your willingness to work for it. You need it to pay taxes, blah blah blah. So they also pledged the unincorporated federal territories, national park forest. We don't own the national parks. The Federal Reserve does. The federal bank, the people that we are in debt to. It's been hypothecated. Our birth certificates, whoa, and non-profit organizations as collateral. That's why your birth certificate's on bond paper. I've showed that in my last video, a couple of my videos, but my last one. It's on bond paper. Why is it on bond paper? Well, because it's been hypothecated, okay? He who creates controls. Who created the birth certificate? Well, they did. Who controls the birth certificate? Well, they do. Okay, we're going to explain that further. So just like a motor vehicle gets a certificate of title in exchange for the MSO, giving up legal title in exchange for equitable title, so is the body with the birth certificate. Okay, I'm going to first talk about slaves, pre-Civil War slaves here in America. Okay, so just as a boat comes off a ship and receives a record, just as a boat comes off the ship, so just as a car comes off the boat and receives a record, so do slaves, okay? They'd come off and say, okay, I captured this slave, or whatever terminology they used. I stole this slave. I kidnapped this guy. I brought it here. This slave manifested. Yesterday it wasn't here, today it's here. I need a certificate of manifestation. I need a record. I need to record this. So slaves that were born, so when you do this, you would get some sort of certificate that says, this is my slave, I'm the owner of this. It's weird talking about slaves like this, people like this, but this is how it was. So slaves that were born on plantations received birth certificates, okay? So when they came off the ship, the guy at the dock would say, okay, yes, I see this slave coming off the ship. Here's proof of that you brought this. You didn't steal it you didn't steal this property from somebody else. It actually came from where their origin, Africa likely. They came over here. Okay, you own this. You could go, this is your little title. Now you could go sell them. Okay, so, but if they were born on the property, there wouldn't be some guy on the dock with the waiting for the ship to come and notifying that these actually came from another country rather than some other guy's plantation. So you would get a birth certificate. You would certify that this slave was born on your property and that you own it. Okay, and that's just how it was. It's weird to think about it that way, but that's how it was. You would have a certificate that showed that you were the owner of it. That's what a certificate was. That's the origin of the modern birth certificate. Okay, and this is the plantation police, right? This is the runaway slave patrol. This is where the police, right? Police enforce policy, not law, because policy is what is created for the subjects. So plantation police, runaway slave patrol. So out of this, These people controlled the police, plantation police controlled those with the birth certificate. Now it's the same way. The police officers control those with a birth certificate, those who have pledged to the legal system that we are in debt to. This will I'll come full circle with all of this, so it might not fully make sense at the moment until all these points of data are inputted. So now every American has a birth certificate. Every American has one. So prior to the early 1900s, Americans wrote their births, marriage, and deaths in the family Bible. So here's this. Like, you could just search this. I mean, you won't see many around the 1900s, 1844, 1841, 39, 1875, right? These are all, that's a marriage, but yeah, these are all in the 1800s. This is what they did. And isn't it interesting that this is the book of the law, right? The Bible has the law. It's our country. It's our citizenship, right? And we write our birth in this and saying, this is our law. This is my citizenship. And now we do it on the birth certificate that's on bond paper, which says that we're owned because of he who creates controls who created the birth certificate, right? We're owned by this legal system that exists in this world. That's what a birth certificate is. And it's really, really messed up. And it's these two systems. You know, what system are you a part of? So just as a ship in the waters moves down the canal in its berth to be delivered at the docks, it delivers its cargo. So does a baby navigate through the waters. The mother breaks her water breaks, and it goes down to the birth canal and is delivered by the doctor, right? Delivered at the docks, delivered by the doctor, right? It's the same thing. It's the same deception, but instead of coming out of the waters of the ocean, now we're coming out of the waters of the mother. Okay, it's all just this thing without a law, right? Because international waters, there's no law form, and it comes out, and then you're given this law, you're given this identity, you're given joinder, and you're given something to trust, right? The birth certificate is a trust, okay? The birth certificate's the trust. The Declaration of Independence is the trust. The Declaration of Trust, and then the Constitution would be the trust indenture, which is the law, which is the policy. Which, if you are the trustee of the trust, you are under the policy of the Constitution, which all laws are derived from. Okay, which is why the police enforce the policy of those who have a birth certificate. So the birth certificate is a trust created by the international bankers as assurance that the federal debt will be paid. Okay, so if you're in debt a ton of money and you want to go get more credit from your lender, they're going to need some sort of collateral. We are that collateral. Why? Well, because we go to work, and a ridiculous percentage of our wages goes to paying back the federal debt. Okay, federal taxes do not go to building roads, do not go to hospitals, do not go to schools, do not go to anything that you think it does. It only goes back to paying the debt. Okay, go look at the 1984 Grace Commission report if you don't believe me. It's all in there. Okay, which I've also covered. So you are the assurance for the federal debt, that the federal debt will be paid, okay? Because you're paying it every time you get a paycheck. A part of that goes into paying back the debt, which will never be paid back. So remember the bankruptcy of 1933 and the confiscation of all gold, property, and birth certificates? Yes, that includes you, okay? The land was used to help pay back that debt. The gold was used to help pay back that debt. You are now being used to pay back that debt. By registering as and identifying as the person, which is the birth certificate, which is the trust, who do you trust in? If you identify as being a United States citizen and you trust in the government for your protection, then that's who you trust. And you have formed trust with them. The Bible says, God says throughout the entire Bible, trust in me, trust in me. I have no respect for persons. Well, maybe we're starting to figure that out, why he's saying all that stuff, especially that I have no respect for persons. And to trust in me when there's all these other things to trust in, and we're trusting in them. We're trusting in the system here, that they're going to make everything better, especially in these times. We're identifying the person. So when you identify as the person in the birth certificate and say, oh yeah, that's me right there, you create something called joinder, and you're responsible for the debt owed to the bankers through the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. That's when this act got signed in, and this act was, that's an interesting story. Griffith, The Creature of Jekyll Island, I forget who wrote that, but he covers this really well, and he actually talks about how when they tried to put this federal act, get this passed, the Federal Reserve Act, all of these nasty bankers that people were like, oh, I know they're bad and dirty and don't want anything good to do with the people. They actually went and said, no, we don't want this. We don't want the Federal Reserve Act. It's bad. And they had that whole thing planned because it's a psychological warfare, right? They're trying to say, like, if they're like, oh, that evil banker, he doesn't want that passed, it must be good, because nobody's going to sit here and read the Federal Reserve Act, right? Nobody reads any of this stuff. We just listen to what other people have to say and make our decision based off that. So it's really genius. It's really quite diabolical yet genius how this whole thing has been going down, and what's going on right now is absolutely genius. Diabolical, wicked, disgusting, but absolutely genius. So what is joinder? It's when you unite with another person in some legal proceeding. So a person is not a man. A person is a legal entity. So uniting with another person. So let's say I'm the CEO of Target or Walmart. I'm the CEO of Walmart. I don't, like, you can't just look at me and be like, oh yeah, that's the CEO of Walmart. I don't have a Walmart CEO on my forehead, right? I have to declare that. I have to make a declaration. I have to make some sort of assent that I'm bonded to that, right? That is who I am. I have to make that known to people. And when I do, I have the rights, I have the responsibilities as well of the CEO of Walmart, right? I can make certain decisions that Joe Schmo can't. But when Joe Schmo puts on the person of CEO of Walmart, now he is something different. He has different legal implications, okay? He created joinder. It's the same thing with your birth certificate. When you say, oh yes, I am Joe Schmo over there, I'm not Joe of the Schmo family, citizen of heaven, right? I am Joe Schmo, United States citizen under the 14th Amendment. That's who I am. That you create joinder, and you have the rights, which are really just privileges, but you also have the responsibilities, which is to pay the debt, which is taxes, which is obeying the policy because you're a trustee and you're under the trust indenture, which is the Constitution, which all laws come out of, all 6 million federal laws and then state and city laws that you all have to know, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. So here's the hierarchy that I like to use. I love this. He who creates owns controls. So God's here at the top, and then there's man. God created man, therefore God is in control of man. He is our authority, okay? What did man do? Man created government. Okay, therefore man is in control of government. What did government do? Government created police, courthouses, judges, persons, which is the birth certificate. That's the foundational legal document that creates the person. Then out of that, you create your identification, your driver's license, your social security, everything. And so the government created the persons. Who controls the person? The government does. Okay, so we went from here, man, under God, right? We had to obey God. God was our authority, right? But we also get a lot from being a child of God, right? There's responsibilities, but there's also rights. Okay, but now we're like, no. We don't want to be under God anymore. We want to be under government. We want a king, right? We want a king. We don't want to be under God. We want a king. This is just what happened in the Bible. We want Saul to rule us, just like all the other kingdoms, right? So we're going to create these things called persons who have rights and responsibilities given by the government, and we're going to go from man up here all the way down to persons right here, which are creations of the government. And now we're going to be controlled by the government, and we're going to be under the authority of the government rather than the authority of God as a man. We're no longer man and woman. We are persons. That's why when you read your little code of conduct and your rules, regulations from your city, it'll always say person. It will never say man, because the government does not control man. It controls persons, and that's who you identify with through joinder. Okay? And that's why in the Bible it says, if a man do this, God controls man. It says God has no respect for persons. Okay? There's a very clear division between a man and a person. Persons are controlled by the government. If you claim to be a person through joinder and saying, yes, this little guy picture on the ID, that's me, then you're under the control of the government. If you stand as a man, then you're under the authority of God, and you also have the rights as a man, and you are above government because you are the authority, the creator. He who creates controls. So if you stand as a man, then no one can come against you in this world, because no man has more power than any other man in this world. So as a man, you are the highest authority on earth, granted to you by God, and we choose to exchange that to get social benefits from the government. That's where we're at. We'll move on. Okay, as you can see, the legal system is intertwined with the monetary, mammon system. Therefore, when one falls, so does the other. So I think I've made that pretty clear, that the monetary system, when that collapsed, they integrated the birth certificate and the joinder and the identity and all of that, and you became a bond slave, essentially, through the birth certificate. And you were up here as a man, you came down here as a person through your own consent, and now you are under the legal authority of the government because you're in debt to them. Okay, so debt, that's the monetary system, and because you're in debt, now you are under that public policy, and that's the legal system. So I think that's been made pretty clear. So it's interesting how the elites want to usher in a one-world government with a one-world currency. If all the economic systems crash and all the legal systems go with it, and about 95% of the countries operate with the birth certificate, they all have a central bank, I think all except for the ones that we're currently either at war with or have extreme conflicts with right now. But every other country in the world has a central bank, and therefore a birth certificate in which all of the citizens have pledged to pay back the debt that will never be paid back because they loan out money with interest, and there's more money in circulation, or there's more debt than there's money in circulation. So it'd be perfect timing for the installment of a one world government and one world currency, which the elites so desperately want. Here we go. This was the front page of The Economist. In 1988 right here, and they're saying get ready for the world currency. Okay, and look at this. It's a phoenix, right? The phoenix is the mystical bird that dies, and out of its ashes comes a new phoenix, right? A new system, right? Out of the ashes of the old comes the new. We are currently in the middle of the destruction, right? We are witnessing this. The entire world is shutting down. I mean, it's all being blamed on this coronavirus, but that's more of like the exoteric reason. The esoteric reason would be that this is destroying the current monetary system, destroying the current legal system, and out of it we're going to grow a new one. And let's and like a phoenix rising out of its ashes, right? And we're going to further that point with this Real ID 2020 that is being talked about. So not only are the legal systems and economic systems intertwined, but all economies are intertwined and pegged to the value of the dollar. If you kill the dollar, you can kill the world economy, right? Back to the petrodollar. Since all economies are interlinked and all economies are linked to the legal system, what happens when the world economy collapses? So enter Real ID 2020. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that, and more just as many people have probably gotten the Real ID 2020. Here in Arizona, they actually pushed it back to 2021. So pushing this agenda back a little bit. They pushed it back because of the they don't want people in the DMV right now, the MVD, whatever you call it in your state. So talk about impeccable timing, right? Like this was proposed in 2018, and now it's like the timing's just perfect. Okay, so here's ID 2020, and what they want is sustained collaboration. Okay, so this is going to come into play with the Agenda 21. And then it says right here, global partnership. Okay, they're working hand in hand with the United Nations, and they want global partnership for this ID, this citizenship that's going to be recognized throughout the entire world. It's a one world legal system, and it's going to be a one world economy. Your ID is going to be linked to this entire system. It's going to be it's creating a giant government, a one world government, right? Okay, so here it is. 1.1 billion people. This is the problem that they're solving. 1.1 billion people live without a digital ID, and you know, our identity is found in Christ, right? Our man does not give us an identity. It's not like, oh, well, let's give you an identity. We're going to help you out with that. Like, I don't need a man to tell me my identity, right? What is an identity? The fact that a subject, person, or thing before a court is the same as represented, claimed, or charged to be. So who do you claim to be? Who do you represent, right? You need to figure those out on your own. But I know who I am, and I know who I represent. Represent. Who do I represent? Who do I present here on earth? So who's partnered with this ID 2020? Accenture. Okay, we're going to Gavi, which the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has, I think they put, was it 750 million? They put a ridiculous amount of money into this vaccine alliance, right? They're all into the vaccines to save humanity, right? The Rockefeller Foundation, Microsoft, there's Bill again, IdeoOrg, okay? And so let's start with the first on the list, Accenture. What do they want to do? What's Accenture want to do? Biometrics and blockchain. Wow. Okay, biometrics. So already we could tell they are interested in creating a digital ID utilizing biometrics. That's your fingerprints, it's your eyes, it's your blood, your urine, anything, your hair particles. You know, any of this. If you've ever seen the movie Gattaca, that would be biometric IDs. Every time they had go in, they got their blood, their fingerprint. Finger pricked, and they tested the blood, they test their hair, they test everything to confirm their ID. And blockchain. So what's blockchain? It's a trustless, immutable ledger. Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're decentralized. They don't necessarily have to be in order to be a blockchain, but likely this blockchain, it'll be decentralized to give us the illusion that it's decentralized, even though it could be decentralized and controlled still. Like Bitcoin, 90% of Bitcoin is owned by 10 people. Who do you think those 10 people are? If they're rich in Bitcoin, they were rich in economy 1.0. You're right. You can't. You're right. If you're in economy 1.0 and you want to control economy 2.0, you just use your wealth. You transfer your wealth from 1.0 to 2.0, right? So we're kind of making full circle here how this digital ID, this legal system, and this economic system and your identity, they're all connecting here into this new system that's currently, it's not fully manifested, but we could just see all these building blocks, all these agendas that are being played out, and when they all come together, we really see what the future is going to be like. So the economy and legal system are about to burn up, right? We're watching that. We're watching the economy burn up, and therefore the legal system will go with it. And out of its ashes, like a rising phoenix, a new economy will rise using digital currency as your identity. Your citizenship will be stored in the blockchain. Okay, it'll be in an immutable ledger. You won't be able to change it. There'll be no central person to call up. It's a decentralized ledger, and what goes in is nothing can be changed. So new global economy as blockchains and decentralized. So decentralized without borders, right? It's global. There's no one who says you can and cannot use it. And globally recognized ID citizenship. Real ID is partnered with the United Nations, world governance, right? What's the purpose of the United Nations, right? So here's the ID 2020, and it says this is just them collaborating with the United Nations. Join us. No. Okay. So here's Forbes article, $1 trillion stimulus jump up. This is the everybody's supposed to get $1,200 or whatever, the stimulus package, a $6 trillion stimulus package. And then really they're using $250 billion out of that for the United States citizens, and everything else is for like the corporations and for the banks, mainly the banks. But they're talking about putting it on the Ethereum blockchain, that decentralized ledger, blockchain ledger. And I did a whole video. It's the first video on this channel called Bitcoin. No, this is the end game. And it's just really exposing what the plan is with these cryptocurrencies, and that everything is going to be moved over to them, and eventually it's going to lead to something like the mark of the beast, where you cannot buy or sell unless you are part of that system, and you cannot have access to that system because it's a created system, right? It's not like gold where you just go, anybody has access to gold. In order to have access to this this new system, that is likely you're going to have to use some sort of chip or something, or you're going to have to prove that you are vaccinated or whatever. You're going to have to prove your identity, whatever it might be. Because right now with Bitcoin, if somebody has access to your keys, or you lose your keys, you lose everything, right? So that's extremely dangerous. So for our own safety, something will come about. So coronavirus stimulus offered by House Financial Digital Service. So they're creating a new digital dollar. That was the verbiage in the bill. So the bill establishes a digital dollar, which it defines as a balance expressed as a dollar value consisting of digital ledger entries that are recorded as liabilities in the accounts of any Federal Reserve bank. So it's getting rid of the paper and just putting it all onto a digital ledger, which is kind of what we're already doing now. But this next paragraph will give more clarity to what exactly is going on. Additionally, a digital dollar wallet is identified as a digital wallet, so like a Bitcoin wallet, right? Something that has a private and public key, maintained by the Federal Reserve Bank on behalf of any person, right? Persons, not men, not women, person, that represent holding in an electric device or service that is used to store digital dollars that may be tied to a digital or physical identity. It may not in the beginning, but it will eventually, I guarantee it. So it's obvious to what is happening when you know where all of this is progressing towards, right? So this is Revelation 13, and it says, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." Already we're getting these people putting stuff in their hands and buying and selling things. They're not being forced to do it. And it doesn't even say anybody will be forced. It says they causeth. He causeth them to do it. People are willfully going to take this. And then on their foreheads, there's talk about putting some sort of like digital mesh in your brain to connect yourself to artificial intelligence. Elon Musk talks a lot about that. "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." So, it could be as simple as, if you don't have your chip, we can't verify that you have a vaccine, therefore you're dangerous out in public. There's so many routes that this could go down right now. It's like, which one are they going to take? "Here's wisdom, let him that understandeth count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, the number is 666. So this is coming. That's a fact. How this is coming, when this is coming, is up to debate. This is a fact. We are progressing towards this. Everything I've just showed you looks like it's progressing towards this in some capacity. Okay? This is the fact. This is what's coming. Can't deny that. Okay? Matthew 4. Again, the devil taketh him up to an exceedingly high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. And he saith to them, all these things will I give to thee. You can't give something unless you have control over it. If thou wilt fall down and worship me. So, and Jesus said, get away from me. You know, it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. So, and let's read this. Satan, who is the god of this world, in whom the god of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not. Okay? So, Satan, that fallen angel, is the god of this world. Okay? And this is what he wants to do. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be like the Most High. That's why he's putting everybody together under one body of law, one king at the top. And it already says he controls all these kingdoms. So really all we're seeing is this being manifested so that we could actually willfully and consensually be a part of this system. It's already here. All these systems are already connected through the central bankers, and everybody is still controlled from the top down. Okay, it's just we haven't necessarily realized that there's still this play going on where we're going and attacking each other, and we hate each other, and it's all just a show. It's all just different pieces coming together for the final crescendo, for everything to fall into line, to trick the whole masses and get us all to be a part of this one world system that right here it's who's going to be at the top? Satan, the god of this world, right? When there's nothing wrong with a one world government. If God is at the top, the real God, right? But the problem is what's being created is where Satan's at the top, and he's the ruler, and he's your leader, and he's the one giving the command. So, and that's what he wants to do. I will send above the clouds. I will be like the Most High. That's what we see everything. Like the digital surveillance, like he wants to have eyes everywhere, right? And then he creates this AI so he can interpret everything and make trends and patterns and predictions on what's going to happen into the future. And he wants to create this global body, right? Like God has a body, right? We are the body of God. We are the body of Jesus, his hands and feet here on earth, and we do his will. He wants the same thing. He wants an entire body to do his will, right? It's just everything that is going on is just flipping upside down of what is happening, or what has already existed in heaven, but for good. It's being used for bad. It's a perversion of good, and it's for the purpose of evil and to glorify Satan rather than God. So perilous times are afoot, but fear not, for we have been told of these times beforehand, right? Like this all this stuff is coming. It's like, whoa, this has been foretold 2,000 years ago. So I know, like, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you are here, God has put you here because he knows that you could withstand these times if you lean on his strength, right? Like that's pretty cool to think about. Like, if you're here, like whether this is the final generation or not, whether these are the end times, it really doesn't matter. These times are going to be perilous. These are going to be tough times. And if you're here, if you're in this location for this purpose and this time, that means that you can do what you are meant to do, right? Like he wouldn't put us here and be like, oh, no, that guy can't do what, I'm going to ask him to do all these things, but he can't do it. Like, obviously you can be able to do the things that he wants you to do if you lean on his strength and not your own, right? You got to do this on his strength and to glorify him and not yourself. So gird up your loins like a man. What an amazing time to be alive, really. I mean, like, if you just think about it, like when all this is over and evil and death is destroyed, like a mission like this is not going to exist. Like, to go out and be like, because everyone will have known, like everyone will know good and know Jesus and know God and be a part of that body already. But right now there's people that aren't a part of that, and we get to bring that to them. And like, that's all of eternity. This is the only time that we will have this opportunity. So that's pretty cool if you think about it that way. So use your time wisely. We know not how this is going to end, or we know how this is going to end. Our fate is sealed in eternity. Like our personal destiny is sealed, right? If you are sealed and a child of God and born again, there's really nothing to be afraid of other than just the fact that there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, people are probably going to be anxious. Like, sometimes I'm anxious. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? But ultimately, I mean, it's just like what are they? What's the worst they could do? Like force me to take a vaccine? Like I like it's just like there's like, and if I say no, like what are they going to do? Like put me in some it's just put me in jail, or like there's really like kill me, like there's no weapon that they could use against us. There really isn't anything if you hold on to the faith and the belief of who you are, your true identity, the one that God gave you, not the one that they gave you, and that you are sealed, and that you will have eternal life because of the things that you do, and the because of the belief that you have in God, and that the things you do are going to be based off of that belief rather than the fear that they give to you. So, I don't know how all this is going to play out, but this is huge. Like the hidden hand is really being shown. This hidden hand that they like to do, right? The entire world is shutting down, right? Like so it really gives credence to this verse right here that Satan is saying, I control all the kingdoms. Like I have all these and I could give them to whom I will, right? Like the entire world systematically is shutting down. And something is going to come out of this, and it is going to be huge. They can't do this 2 or 3, like this isn't going to work, 5 years from now. Oh, let's do it again. Like I don't think they could just keep doing this and doing this. Like something crazy. This is huge. Something huge is going to come out of it. It's like after 9/11, things were never the same, right? After coronavirus, nothing is going to be the same. Things are going to change, and we're not going to go back to that old way. So what that changes, that's what is up in the air right now. And I can't imagine them not forcing vaccinations after this. If the people are enforcing social distancing, right? Like how many people have been like, my wife was at the store and she was too close to somebody and they got all mad because she wasn't social distancing. She was like 3 feet away or something. Like people are enforcing this. They are there. We are policing ourselves, right? Think of when something like a vaccine comes out. I mean, it's just, I cannot comprehend it. I can't think of a situation where it's not going to be either mandatory in general or mandatory to do any sort of interstate travel or airplane travel or something. Like it's going to be huge. It's going to be something that is going to greatly affect us all. And that's not to scare people. It's just, I mean, just think about it. This is huge. Like the entire world, and the entire world's following suit, right? So whatever is going to come out of this, it's something to be. It's something to be ready for, and it's something to make sure that you know who you are and that there's nothing to be afraid of, and to really be prepared for anything, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen, and it's okay to expect the worst, because hopefully we won't. And what I mean is, like, I don't know, if somebody had me take a chip, like I'd rather die than that. Like I've mentally prepared for that. So I guess that's what I'm saying. Mentally prepare for the worst and hope and pray that will not come. So I hope I've made everything clear here. Please ask if you have any questions, and I will be happy to answer those.